Oboe files. Today we're talking about Ferling Etude number 13, which is the slow one in D major. The main focus of this etude is just the epicness of it, the storytelling, and we'll get into a little bit of that in just a moment, but first I wanted to talk about a couple of technical details. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe for more Oboe files videos, tutorials on the oboe, and just fun music-y things. So the first big technical issue that you might come across is simply getting the trill at the end of the first line, right? At the end of the first phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just getting the trill in measure 5. Now, I've talked about how to do ornaments before in the Ferling etudes, but it's never a bad idea just to go through the whole process one more time. So the first thing you want to do is just figure out what the rhythm is without the ornaments. Or if you prefer to tongue it, that's a good exercise too, so you can really be clear about the rhythm. You can tongue the rhythm on just one note to make sure it's really clear in your mind. Then, put the notes back in without the ornaments. And then finally just add one ornament at a time until it's clear. I like to put the trill in last because it's the easiest one to kind of visualize. And finally, now the next thing that's going to make this etude special is just being able to carry the phrase through towards the end and have all the special moments in between. And your best friend while doing this is vibrato. If you need a tutorial on how to exercise your vibrato to get a lot of control over it, I have a video only about vibrato, and that's in the description below. Now in this etude, the way you want to use vibrato is to develop certain notes and carry the momentum to the end of the phrase. So for example, in the first phrase, we could play it without vibrato. It doesn't really seem to go anywhere. So maybe at the beginning, it's nice to have a little bit more simplice kind of feeling, but definitely as you go, you want to add vibrato to these notes to develop the intensity. So by the time I get to the end of this little phraselet, there's a lot more motion and intensity in the voice. Whereas at the beginning, we might not have had as much. Now you can also go overboard with the vibrato, so be careful not to have the vibrato change the pitch too much, otherwise we'll lose our center of intonation. Now the other issue is manipulating the air through the runs. An exercise that can help you with this is just to play the scale really slowly. And I know I talked about going slow before, but these large leaps and arpeggios are quite difficult. And when you're going slow, you want to take a small chunk and just try to get the jelly in between. So I'm going to focus on bar 24, and I might practice it like this, really slowly getting the in between the notes. When I feel comfortable with this, I'll speed it up a little bit to get the momentum going through the whole phrase, but never letting up with the intensity towards the end of the line. And that way, the air doesn't stop, even when there are breaks in the melody itself. Lastly, the thing that makes this etude really special is that it's long, and there's a lot of different moments to show different characters. So I want to challenge you to use your imagination and really show when are we being really sensitive and intimate, and when are we being very bombastic. I like to think of this etude as kind of the narrative of a love story, right? Some parts are very out singing to the mountaintops, and some parts are very kind of secret and kind of in private. So use your dynamics and vibrato to kind of show this to the listener, rather than just the right notes and the right rhythms. I hope that helps, and if it does, don't forget to play beautifully.